could start with the person that's actually working in the hospitality sector at the moment, being Rachel. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about the challenges that are facing you at Metropolitan and what you're doing about them?
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, it's quite a broad question. There's so much that I can discuss on this, but I think from a high level, obviously, look, I mean, the cost of living crisis has affected not only us but our employees as well. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, sadly, that we're sort of feeling the ripple effect from. In terms of the businesses themselves, obviously, we're facing, supplier increases. So your cost of product has increased, and for us to then, turn the needle and really ramp up our prices. It's really not sensible in a particular market where disposable income doesn't really. Yeah, exactly. Exist really. Obviously, you've got your wealthy earners. They're fine in sort of premium venues, premium restaurants with the fine dining, the fresh food, the Chateaubriands, all that kind of stuff. They're fine and they're going to survive whatever crisis comes because those earners have that revenue and that income. But obviously, with this sort of middle and lower market, it's always going to fluctuate. And I think that as business leaders, you're constantly strategizing. It could be. I think I was talking to you before about this, but you can have a 5-year strategy. So I can say, okay, I'm going to make X, Y, Z. I've budgeted for this. I forecasted for this. And then all of a sudden COVID hits and it completely depletes. It doesn't exist anymore. That strategy kind of goes in the bin. And how do you as leaders sort of mitigate that with your employees and your business? And also there are sort of loads of parameters around that of what we can do and what we have done. I think the biggest thing we're working on really is just understanding what the trends are. So for example, looking into the sort of the statistics, 16% of the UK are now meat free. So if you looked at that 5 years ago, that's not true. That didn't exist. What's vegan, what's vegetarian, and now it's such a huge market. So I'm strategizing and spearheading a sort of brand new menu as such that will go live in all of our casinos to match with that. And also it has to be competitively priced. So it's quite a big piece of work essentially. But really adapting to trends is number one, really, I think, in terms of how we can get through the crisis. But more so, the biggest challenge is that income piece versus, us needing to increase our prices. It'd be very easy to say, okay, 20% flat increase on all drinks, all food, but you'll lose probably 40% of your customers. So lots of work can go into, if you're in fresh food, for example, and you're sort of having we do a lot of work on product swap. So before we would put on a loin of a cod loin, for example, but now we're actually looking at that, saying maybe we use pollock instead, but a really good quality pollock, and things like that to still offer that fish and still offer that protein, but looking at ways of cutting those costs for us, because it's really, really challenging in terms of the rising costs from a food and drink perspective. And you're up against big pub companies, so you're going to have those big boys who are getting the best deals you've ever seen. We're not going to get that. We're not going to get a barrel at a GP of 70% on a barrel. So it's really just working from a sort of small to middle sized business, what we can do within the kind of hospitality sector